This week in the news, Tomas the Tank Engine crashes into Morrowind, Nintendo banning another game, shocker, Gothic 1 devs speak out on the remake. All that and more on this week's Old Man Rages at the News for the 1st of December 2025. Before we dive into the news, if you like the content, hit the like and subscribe buttons and share the video. Kicking off this week with probably every Skyrim player's worst nightmare, the modder who put Tomas the Tank Engine into Skyrim did the same thing in Morrowind. This mod, of course, is not endorsed by the company that owns the Tomas the Tank Engine copyright, Metal, and as a result, the modder got into trouble with it. Of course, this happened back in 2019 and again was done without their permission. The modder announced on Blue Sky that he made a mod that replaces cliff racers with Tomas the Tank Engine and wrote, "I am incapable of learning lessons whenever it involves corporations because I fundamentally do not view toy company CEOs or media CEOs as people." Even on the next page for the mod, he wrote, "I sometimes feel like I need to milk a particular joke until its inevitable demise. I will do this no matter how many legal threats, actual threats, black vans with the Mattel logo on them, or severed Barbie heads are mailed to me." This man is truly dedicated to his craft. Moving on, the Chinese Room's co-founder told Paradox, "We can't make Bloodlines 2, but then they did make Bloodlines 2 and it was like untangling an anaconda fuckball of competing priorities." The Chinese Room co-founder, Dan Pitchbeck, was on the Golf Boss podcast and explained how he urged Paradox not to call the game Bloodlines 2. Pitchbeck said from the start that the Chinese Room intended to build its own version of the game rather than try to finish the work done by Heartsuit Labs. He said, "When we first started talking to Paradox, I said, we'd even seen the Heartsuit build. I was like, we're a studio that built our reputation on storytelling, and I guess you want to do it justice. You want to take care of it. But taking over a project that had already been in development as well, that's such a tricky thing to take on. We are an original IP studio. The only way we're going to want to do this is if we are able to. Basically, we'll take everything that's there and use as much as we can. But we don't just want to finish someone else's game. We used to sit there and have these planning sessions of how do we get them to not call it Bloodlines 2? You can't make Bloodlines 2. There's not enough time. There's not enough money." And I'll stop reading there because this is literally just them saying we can't make this and we don't have enough money. It just shows that this game does not have a future as a result of being given to the wrong studio and was horribly mismanaged because of it. Paradox at least took the blame for the flop of the game and announced a $37 million write-down. Yes, you heard that right. The CEO of Paradox Interactive took the blame for the game's failure instead of blaming the developers. He even said, and I quote, "We've had high expectations for a long time since we saw that it was a good game with a strong IP in a genre with a broad appeal. A month after release, we can sadly see that sales do not match our projections, which necessitates the write-down. The responsibility lies fully with us as the publisher. The game is outside of our core areas. In hindsight, it is clear that this has made it difficult for us to gauge sales. Going forward, we focus our capital on our core segments, and at the same time, we'll evaluate how we best develop World of Darkness's strong brand catalog in the future." Moving on, TimeSplitter's remake finally came out after a decade of development. Yes, you heard that right. They worked on it since 2013, and this remake is going to remain 100% free to play. Now, I wanted to see if it's just going to be free for the early access, or is it going to remain free even after the release. So I checked their FAQ section and I saw the question, why is the game free? To which they wrote that the agreement with the IP holders is that the game would not make any form of profits, meaning even after the game fully releases, it would remain free. And for anyone curious, these are the things you will get in the early access, if you choose to download and play it. I just personally can't believe we got an early access version of this game before GTA 6. What's next? Half-Life 3 getting released? In other news, the former Ghost of Yotei artist, who made this joke by the way, claims she got fired because of a quote-unquote harassment campaign and that nobody at Sony or Sucker Punch bothered investigating. This came from an interview with Aftermath where Harrison said the firing didn't happen because of the joke, but because of the harassment campaign that supposedly followed. Now, why does she say that? Does she actually have proof? Nope. She just believes the real reason she got fired was because of a random harassment campaign, even though she acknowledged in the interview that, quote, the joke was not in the best taste. You think? Mind you, the quote-unquote joke is still up to this very moment. If she truly believed it was not in the best taste, she would have taken it down and not leave it there for everybody to see. But hey, apparently thinking isn't really popular in this day and age. I even went to the original source just to see if PC Gamer left out something to, well, at least show it has potential, and nope. In the 2,000 plus words interview, there was nothing to show for as a possibility. She even said in the interview, and I quote, I just thought I'm their entertainment for the day. I assumed it was going to go how it always has. Nobody cares about what they say because they literally only harass for the fun of it. There is no moral code they're trying to uphold. There is no cause they're rallying for. They're just trying to make people suffer. You did this to yourself, Chief. Gamers just want to enjoy games, not listen to preachers. It also doesn't help the case that you're trying to portray yourself as a victim right now, considering you started all of this with your tweet/posts. You made this bet, and now you'll lay in it, whether you like it or not. Moving on, someone leaked Farah and the Prince's models, and side by side, it ain't looking good. I'm not kidding. The models for the remake look like they straight up came from Crusader Kings 3. Now, I have to say, there was another Twitter account showing that these are supposed to be concept art for the game. There is no way to have such a good looking concept art and then uglifying it so hard. But then again, if the leaks are right, we're here. I mean, this has to be on purpose at this point. That's just speculation, considering if the concept art holds and we get this final model, oh brother. Video Game Chronicles also managed to get an article on the leaks where they wrote, and I quote, according to the leaked presentation, Farah returns in the Sands of Time remake and once again accompanies the player, with no plans to make her a playable character. However, the presentation appears to stress that there will no longer be a requirement to save Farah during battles, suggesting that she should be able to take care of herself now. This suggests that the game will contain that piss-poor attempt at making a girl boss character that we've seen so far, which is further corroborated by the next paragraph where it said that Farah is capable of fighting independently. Kinda surprised that VGC isn't gushing about this, but oh well, this is gonna be a no-buy for me anyways. The only thing that I'll be on the lookout for is the game's sales data and player numbers on Steam, because that will tell me all that I need to know. And now for some fun speculations. Death Stranding 2 on the beach PC port is likely to come out because someone found the ESRB ratings for it. Now, the thing is, the page cannot be reached for some reason. However, FRVR has a screenshot of it showing that there is a PS5 version and a PC version. On top of that, the Wayback Machine was able to archive the page, so you can also check that out there. Even the article mentions that the game might come closer than we think, and it gave examples with the first Death Stranding. However, there is no release date and nothing so far from the studio, so this could have just been a case of the page going live before it was intended to be. In other news, after splurging on EA, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund is reportedly tightening its purse strings due to financial distress caused by numerous troubled projects, or in other words, they're cancelling projects that may not look like they'll make profit. According to the New York Times, the public investment fund is restricting operations under the eye of Crown Prince Mohammed, as numerous projects it has invested in are under, quote, financial distress. The public investment fund's total investment value apparently stands at almost $1 trillion in assets. And a spokesperson, Marwan Bakrali, pretty sure I butchered that, said the fund is, quote, very liquid by regional standards, with $60 billion in cash. But 6 other people told the New York Times that the fund's representative have communicated to international investors that it is virtually unable to allocate any additional money for the foreseeable future. Now, this is just my speculation, but this could mean they will just purely focus on profits. Meaning, they'll be forcing EA to make good games instead of activist slop. EA CEO also tried to reassure everyone that it's just business as usual, but even PC Gamer pointed out the financial position isn't reassuring one bit. Moving on, Nintendo is at it again. This time they removed the Great Rebellion, even though the studio compromised with Nintendo's demands. According to KVLT Games, the Great Rebellion Edition 2084 got pulled out from the Nintendo store despite the game getting censored and trying to comply with global standards. I even double checked the Japanese store and it seems to be gone from there as well. The developers released a statement where they also explained what's going on to their fans, and they quoted Nintendo where they said the game could harm Nintendo as a brand. But in classic Nintendo fashion, it was never identified what could harm the brand. I mean, Nintendo's doing that on their own, so, you know, look inwards maybe. I've left the game and the studio's Patreon in the sources. If you want to support them, go right ahead. In other news, Valve takes an easy dub yet again because a Valve artist roasted a Clanker lover on Twitter. Matt Workman wrote this gem: Steam and all digital marketplaces need to drop the made with AI label. It doesn't matter anymore. And naturally, it blew up. The Valve artist, i.e. Sanchez, I hope I didn't butcher that, responded with how it's like saying that food products shouldn't have their ingredients listed. Honestly, that's probably the best analogy that someone can make in this situation, considering how low effort AI slop can look. Pretty sure people can think off the top of their heads a few examples here. But anyways, I digress. Sanchez even wrote, which is something I agree with, mind you, the only people afraid of this are the ones that know their product is low effort, brutal, savage, wrecked, and an absolute cinema, all in one package. And to no one's surprise, the Epic CEO did an epic nosedive into the concrete and defended the take that Matt Workman did by writing, "Agreed, the AI tag is relevant to art exhibits for authorship disclosure and to digital content licensing markets where buyers need to understand the right situation. It makes no sense for game stores where AI will be involved in nearly all future productions." Hold up there, chief. Aren't most digital game storefronts selling licenses? So if they are, doesn't that mean that it's a licensing marketplace? Just some food for thought. But anyways, all in the name of making money and hiding it from the consumer's view, I guess. Good thing the only use I have for the Epic Store is their weekly free games. My entire library there is just the free games they gave out each week. I mean, that's the only thing worthwhile in that store anyways. And in other happier news, Stellar Blade managed to pull it off and became the best-selling PlayStation exclusive launch IP in history for PC. The graph provided by ShiftUp, using SteamDB as a source, mind you, shows the peak player counts on Steam, and as you can see, Stellar Blade is at 129k players, which is 2.5 times more than Ghost of Tsushima. Now, that's where I would love to end it, but IGN woke up on the wrong side of the bed and tripped their way down the stairs. The motherfuckers tried to downplay this. They mentioned what was shown on the graph, but then, for some unknown reason, added Helldivers 2 and stated Helldivers 2, of course, remains in pole position across both single and multiplayer games, and by some considerable margin too. Estimated to have sold 12.7 million copies. Chief, last time I checked, Helldivers 2 doesn't have a single player campaign. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't. And yes, we all know this, but this is specifically for single player games. Not only that, but IGN's delusions can be shattered easily by just looking at the launch date for both PC and console versions of Helldivers 2. It's the same motherfucking day. I mean, IGN, just look at the Wikipedia. It's literally right here. It's not hard to miss. It's not hard to miss. That is, unless you're IGN apparently. Not only that, but they brought along LNA Analytics reports to this, saying that the novelty is wearing off, but at the same time, what does this have to do with Stellar Blade? I mean, sure, it's a Sony IP, but it's not a sequel like the games mentioned here. Oh wait, I know. And they even reminded me. Thanks, IGN. Thanks for reminding me that you think that Stellar Blade's characters are dull and have lackluster story. You sure don't need to remind me that you're biased against the damn thing. And thank you again, IGN, for reminding me that you do not care about good games. I mean, the best way I can show this is with this. They still believe that Veilguard is a better game than Stellar Blade. Someone needs to hike the price for IGN's copium. Moving on, Sega became aware that their definitive versions might incentivize people not buying the original games. Sega released a summary of the shareholders' Q&A, and the Q&A covered a range of topics, but the biggest is the sudden drop in sales of previous games. A number of critically acclaimed titles in the past couple of years fell short in sales expectations. Sega explained that some of the possible causes could be the presence of rival titles in the same genre, as well as the game's initial pricings. The company also pointed out that players expecting, quote, definitive editions of games to be released in the future could be what's making them hesitant to buy the titles at launch. A Sega spokesperson added, "While we haven't been able to pinpoint a precise cause of the lower than expected sales performance, we believe the problem also lies in our marketing, which wasn't able to sufficiently convey the appeal of our games to users." Here's the funny thing. This Japanese account speculated it's not specifically a Sega issue, but an Atlus issue, because Atlus has a track record of releasing games, then re-releasing a new improved version of said games. Now, where the blame lies, we have no idea. You'll be the judge of that. In other news, Ubisoft laid off 1,500 people in a year, and there are plans to tighten its belt even more with the help of AI. Nothing new on the Western front, I guess. First of all, Ubisoft confirmed that the Tencent's investment in the newly established Vantage Studios has been finalized, and just as a reminder, this new entity will take over the Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six franchises. And in the latest financial report, Ubisoft referred to the ongoing cost reduction program. They confirmed that the cost-saving initiative remains on track and has resulted in the departure of 15,000 employees of the past 12 months. During the presentation, Yves Guillemot devoted a lot of attention to generative AI, claiming that it is, quote, a revolution in our industry as the shift to 3D, whatever that means. And AI has been implemented in all of the company's teams. I wonder how their new games will go. I guess we'll learn with Beyond Good and Evil 2, since there's basically a confirmation that the game is being worked on and is in development hell. Yikes. For anyone curious, they're looking for a technical sound designer, lead quest designer, and technical lead network programmer. But if that was all, this wouldn't be Ubisoft really. They're also defending microtransactions in their games and saying it's paying for updates. My guy, we already have that. It's called DLC. Prior to it being called DLC, it was called an expansion pack. Leme Comtois, and I've probably butchered that name as well, said to IGN, quote, microtransactions for all the flack it's getting, it allows us to do the ISO stuff, the quest stuff, the parkour updates, all of it. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are fine with DLC, but having microtransactions that progress the game for you is a bit too much, especially in single player games. Double that if you actually had to pay for them. This article literally is just a defense for Ubisoft. Looking at it, specifically, they're justifying microtransactions because other games are doing it. Let's not even talk about the Assassin's Creed Shadows Attack on Titan collab. Jeez, I'm not a fan of the anime, and looking at that, it's an absolute insult. Even the hidden one here is calling it a complete waste of time. Mind you, he's a YouTuber that makes a lot of Assassin's Creed content. He even added that there isn't even a fight with Titans. You just run away from one and that's it. And what makes this even worse is the moment you've finished, there's a pop-up telling you to go to the store and buy the outfits with money. Yay! More slop from Ubislop. At least they're putting the game down because there are no plans for releasing a second Assassin's Creed Shadows expansion. That is, if you can even call the Attack on Titans thing an expansion. But, of course, Ubisoft being Ubisoft, that also is a big fuck up. Considering the Claw of Awaji, I hope I pronounced this right, a lot of funny names this episode, expansion, that was supposed to be the first expansion was scrapped. Even though they said they would gift it for free to everyone who pre-ordered the game as an apology for the delay. Now, does that fall under false advertisement? I'll let the lawyers on YouTube figure that one out. Speaking of bad moves, the Gothic Remake isn't looking good. Just look at the comparison between the first game and the remake. They uglified all the women in it. Reminder, they promised the game will be a faithful remake. It's literally here on their Steam page, plain as British cuisine. On top of the public backlash, one of the original devs reacted to the new models with the meme, "Look how they massacred my boy." They even confirmed the initial intent with the characters were just to be eye candy. And because the devs behind the remake can't just leave this alone, they also posted this statement on their Discord. They at the very least are aware of the accusations of adding a political or social agenda to the game. However, it's also pretty easy to see they doubled down. We are focused on making the best possible Gothic game and everything we do has a reason in the game that will be made clear once you play, but there won't be any form of censorship or effeminacy. Some characters have different roles, but the main theme and plot remains the same. Okay, cool, the plot remains the same. However, what was stopping them from making the NPCs look the same as well? At this point, it's better to just get the old game and have high-res models modded into it than paying for the remake, considering, quote, some characters have different roles. Isn't exactly a faithful recreation now, is it? I kinda have to agree with this Reddit post over here. We need to remind developers, just in general, what gamers want from games, because this feels like a meat-based restaurant in a city predominantly populated by meat eaters turning purely vegan. Sure, you have customers, but you end up messing with your loyal customers that have visited you frequently. And to wrap this week up, Embracer Group decided to divest Arc Games and Cryptic Studios and keep several franchises. On the 26th of November, Embracer Group entered a definite agreement to divest Arc Games and Cryptic Studio to Project Golden Arc Inc. with financial help from XD Inc. Yes, it is called XD Inc. The expected net cash proceeds amounting to $30 million, and Embracer will retain the publishing rights for the Remnant franchise. They are also retaining the right for the multiplayer online game Fellowship and will become part of the pending Coffee Strain Group spin-off. But that was all for this week. Again, if you like the content, hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.